Okay, members, that's also on live now. Okay, members, the time is now 6 o'clock. I am going to call a minute silence. Today's the Holocaust Memorial Day. So I hear the Guildhall clock. So members, we're going to have a minute silence. Thank you, members, and thank you, Councillor Hargan, bringing that forward. Okay, members, I will see you back here at 6:20. Thank you now.
Hello again, members. Just to advise that the mayor is going to require just another 5 minutes. So we'll come back on again at 6:25. 6:25. Thank you.
Thank you, members, and welcome back. The council meeting, I'm going to move to agenda 12 now, and it's the notice of motions. I'm going to bring in Alderman McConaughey for the first motion tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I take it as read on the screen? And I see Morris has seconded it there. Thank you. Mayor, Tully Alley Housing Estate is now 50 years old. The houses were originally built on land that was owned by the Stevenson family, thus the name of Stevenson's Park in the area. And as part of the land was gifted by Mrs. Stevenson for the use of the local community. This is the land next to the council-owned community centre. Over the years, the land has been used as a football pitch and a general runaround area. Council have cut grass and facilitated minor maintenance on the site. This has always been on a piecemeal, a reactive basis. The Community Association have aspirations for the better use of this land for community recreational purposes to better meet the need of the local residents. Recent reports commissioned by Council's Good Relations Programme were conducted by St Colum's Park House. In November past, we as a council noted the reports, and as I pointed out in the virtual chamber then, in one case, Council was cited as taking forward 14 of the 17 recommendations for another group. In this case, for the communities of Tully Alley and Currynearn, they were basically left to their own devices to progress by themselves. These reports identified many issues that needed to be progressed, but in the case of Tully Alley, whilst listing all the issues, there was no indication as to how these could be addressed other than the Community Association should pursue these. However, the community need a bit of assistance to progress a plan for their green space so that they are in a state of readiness to take up opportunities as they arise to address the disadvantage, the health and environmental issues in the area. The community are willing to take on the challenge. To facilitate, to start up the process, they need a master plan to allow them to pursue various funding opportunities. This is the missing link between the report and being able to take a step further. The people of Tully Alley have watched and applauded as many other areas have progressed and gone from strength to strength, but they see themselves as a forgotten and a neglected estate. This has at times led to tremendous apathy in the area. Now they have a vibrant new community association. They have a fantastic worker, albeit she's not even full-time, who has no other backup based in the centre. They need a helping hand from council. Past efforts have focused almost solely on cross-community work with Currynearn, and important as that is, there's an opportunity to assist this community now to take a positive step forward. This isn't a request for a master plan that's going to put a massive financial burden on council. The building's there, and whilst it's understaffed and under-resourced, the area needs a plan, particularly for the outside contentious space that is underutilised and that only receives reactive and piecemeal assistance. I would urge all members to support this notice of motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Alderman McConaughey. Okay, Councillor Jackson on the motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Alderman McConaughey for bringing the motion to council. Mayor, I'm going to pose a slight amendment. Just after Tully Alley Community Centre, I want to include the line, insert the line, and the council-owned open space. At Currynearn. That's it, Caesar. Thank you.
Okay, there's some amendment there, members. Have you seconded that?
I second that, Mayor. Councillor Heaney.
Councillor Heaney second that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks, Connor. And just, Mayor, we fully support the original motion. The area surrounding Tully Alley is in bad need of investment and support, and it certainly could be utilised a lot better. And I suppose plans to prioritise recreation and sport will be very welcome to the residents of Ivy Mead and Tully Alley, who have been raising issues around this site for quite some time. But developing a master plan is only one element of it, albeit a very important step. But equally important is identifying funding opportunities, and I'm really glad to see that included in Alderman McClintock's motion. Alderman McClintock referenced the links between Curragh and Tully Alley, and I think it's important that we reinforce that. Not they become a barrier to any potential funding, but they recognise that there's massive need right across the entire area. As somebody who played a part in the development of a master plan for the Curragh space, it is disappointing to learn that there's that it hasn't been realised, and they did, and that is because the funding hasn't been secured for the site, despite a lot of work from council. They work with the community and they develop a master plan. And I know I had been at weekly meetings with council officers, and I recognise how much work was put on it. But there is the apathy that Alderman McClintock alluded to. That's in place right across because of the lack of delivery. So we need to see delivery in Curragh and in Tully Alley. And I believe that this amendment would strengthen the motion and hopefully refocus attentions on actual delivery, because it's all well and good having a master plan, but we actually need
Thank
to
you
see
for that,
we
Councillor
need to see
Jackson.
delivery on the ground. So I hope that the motion strengthens, the amendment strengthens the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman McCready, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Mayor, on the amendment, happy to support to be included in the master plan, but I'll hold my remarks till the full motion and the substantive one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll speak on both. So thank
Yeah.
you, Mayor. We'd like to thank Alderman McClintock for bringing this motion forward. I speak on behalf of Councillor McKinney, who has had to just step away but hopes to return soon. Many of the local councillors know only too well the situation on the ground in Tully Alley, and I know my colleague Councillor McKinney has been working closely with the community as well as other waterside councillors. The community is in real need of council support, and we think a master plan will go a long way in helping them put their aspirations into motion. So again, I thank Alderman McClintock for bringing this motion, and we will support it. We are happy to support the amendment because we do think the two communities have strong links, and it will strengthen it. We're happy to support both. Cheers, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor O'Neill, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll just speak to both if that's okay.
Yeah, fine.
So yeah, I suppose I just have like a few questions. I have no problem with the amendment. Just I know that Alderman McClintock had referred to the action plan that had been funded through the Waterside Local Growth Partnership, and that action plan was just drawn up last year, and that was in partnership with with feedback and input from the local community and local stakeholders. So I would just be wondering, what would the difference be between that action plan last year and this master plan? Because from what Alderman McClintock is describing, there still seem to be a human resource issue in addressing the real need that does exist in that area, because there is wonderful potential in that area, and there is a serious lack of investment, and it's brilliant that there's a worker there, but it sounds like there needs to be more human resource there in order to apply for more funding and to fully achieve the potential that action plan from last year lays out for the Tully Alley and Curragh area. And I would be wondering, should council be facilitating the implementation of that action plan, or would this master plan be different? So those are I have more questions rather than opinions at this stage, as it's not you know, as that this is kind of all I know about it. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Neill. Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Alderman McClintock for bringing forward this motion. We all know the Tullyalley community have faced years of underinvestment. Without a centre manager for long periods of time, it has struggled to obtain any worthwhile notable sums of funding. Even now, the centre manager, who is only contracted for 32 hours and has them completed by a Wednesday, would have a better opportunity to deal with the funding applications and other priorities if another member of staff was made available. The criteria alone for a new member for a temporary part-time role has proven to be totally off-putting to any interested candidate at the present time. Alderman McCready and myself attended a public meeting to discuss what the Tullyalley community wanted to see in their area. 5 people made the effort. Only 2 were from Tullyalley, and they were disgusted at the turnout themselves. I was glad that I didn't actually mention it to the officers at the time to bring them to the meeting. A few weeks after this, Alderman McClintock's party held a meeting between the officers, centre manager, and again, only 2 residents took part. This is why I believe this needs to be a cross-party focus on a complete regeneration of not only the Tullyalley, but the neighbouring Currynearn area. And as Councillor Jackson stated, this now includes Ivy Mead. And this is why in the Ulster Unionist Party, we will be supporting the amendment. We all remember the several nights of violence which happened last Easter. And there was a real clamour at the time to assist the Tullyalley community. Unsurprisingly and sadly, this is now wilted. But we must remember, to move any master plan forward, we need the total buy-in from the entire community, a willingness to contribute from residents, which in turn will create a sense of achievement and pride that will empower the entire community and give them a sense of ownership. We have witnessed in the past that such master plans can become a bit of a white elephant. And this is why it is the community's decision on what they want must matter, and not a party clambering for votes with an election looming. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Alderman Guy. Councillor Mooney, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Yeah, I'll speak on both if you don't mind. Thank
Yeah,
you.
go ahead.
The SDLP will be supporting both the full motion and the amendment as well. Just to really reiterate what all our speakers have said there, including Alderman Guy, I had the opportunity this week of speaking to the Tullyalley community worker and various representatives in Currynearn, and obviously the same sentiments were expressed to me. There is definitely under capacity within the Tullyalley Community Centre. The worker there at the moment is actually labouring under a lot of work, and as has been outlined, is only contracted for 32 hours. So there's definitely under capacity, and that would have to be met. But also as well as I'm glad that the amendment came in because this is extended to the Currynearn area. Although Currynearn themselves are making wonderful strides over the past year to try and reinvigorate their own community association, and they seem to be coming together. But obviously, Currynearn itself have their own plans in mind for their own area. So obviously, this master plan and the concept that's been envisaged for Tullyalley, Currynearn, like obviously, I'm sure at some stage would like to put their own views and proposals forward for any development, and I would like to see that coming as well. So, thank you, Chair, and we're supporting both the amendment and the full motions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Mooney. Members, I think that's everybody on the amendment. So I don't hear anybody looking to vote against that. If there is, could you let me know now on the amendment?
Can I sum up, Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, apologies, Alderman McClintock.
Thanks, Mayor. And first of all, can I say thanks to
Point
Councillor
of order, Mr. Mayor, please.
That's right. Sorry, no 2 seconds. Sorry, I see yours on the amendment. So that's, and I know Alderman McCready's looking on there. So members, I don't hear any dissenting voices on this one. on the amendment? If there is, could you let me know now or put on the chat box? Okay, the amendment passes unanimous. So, Alderman McCready.
Thanks,
And then
Mayor.
I'll bring you in already, sum up.
Appreciate that. So, yeah, Tully Alley, Currynearn, you've got Ivy Mead, and that community's growing. But I'm going to let you in a little secret. I left Tully Alley 20 years ago, and I walked down some of the footpaths and the roads and through the park when I got on a bus and I left for my career abroad. And it's almost 20 years later that I've been in and around Tully Alley frequently over the past 3 to 4 months. And largely, it has been neglected and it has been forgotten. Similarly with Currynearn. And thankfully, we're at a place now where we're not looking over the wall and Tully Alley looking into Currynearn or vice versa on who got what and who didn't get what. Because I can tell you from what I have seen and what I have heard from people door to door in those communities, they have been left behind politically and socially, and they have not reaped any benefits of anything over the last 20 years. So it's certainly timely that a master plan can be put together. Concerning listening to Member Jackson saying that there already is a master plan for Currynearn, but hasn't been implemented. That's concerning to me. It doesn't fill me with much confidence that we keep doing master plans and not delivering on them. The community centre itself is just a building. The most important people through all of this is the actual people who live there, those who work there and who want to get involved. So it's not just an isolated Tully Alley asking for things, albeit that they do deserve it. The football club, the women's group, and all the other stakeholders that use the area have a vision and a plan and just really need the backing of us and council to make this a reality for them and connect those communities between Currynearn and the new communities aside, like Ivy Mead and the new development further up the road. So I'll certainly advocate and support the motion entirely, because albeit I'm not a waterside councillor, but I can tell you now, I speak and represent those people in Tully Alley. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Alderman McCready. I'd see no further members on the substantial motion, so I'm going to get Alderman McClintock to sum up.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you to all the members for their positive comments. And I do thank Councillor Jackson for bringing the amendment. I think it certainly strengthens the original proposal. And I think I'm very, very aware of the needs, the similar needs in Tully Alley and Currynearn. I suppose my reason for bringing it really particularly about Tully Alley today was sometimes we overemphasize that everything has to be about the cross-community work, and sometimes the areas need separate master plans so that they can look for individual funding opportunities. But I am more than happy to have Currynearn included in this as well. And I know that Councillor O'Neill mentioned what's the difference between an action plan and a master plan. I would say the master plan is taken from the action plan. It's one of the issues that was identified in the action plan about the green open space. And I do know that there was a reference made to parties clamouring for votes. I just would like to say that in this particular instance, it was the football club who came and sent the representatives to us to ask us to take this forward, to look at a way forward for the green space in particular. It's not a case of anybody clamouring for votes, and I really do reject that. So I think it's important that we help the community to take that step to putting down on paper a master plan, which was one of the things identified in the action plan, to take it forward. But I thank members very much for their support, and certainly think that both Tully Alley and Currynearn need taken forward together and separately. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Alderman McClintock. So members on the substantial motion here, I am hearing no dissenting voices. So if there is, could you let me know in the chat box or on the screen here? So the substantial motion passes. Okay, members. Moving on now to Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to take the motion as read, and can I ask for a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mayor. Rachel.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson second. Go ahead, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Rachel. Derry's economic future, if left at the mercies of Stormont, will continue much on the track it has for the last 40 years. We've been promised equality and a lifting of all boats for far too long, and it's beyond time that we explore how a local solution might benefit our city and district. I've had an interest in local economic solutions for some time, and as part of Green2's commitment to economic justice, I'm bringing this motion forward today to bring our economic prospects back into local hands as much as possible. Community wealth schemes, Mayor, are a model originating in Cleveland, Ohio, and were adopted with varying degrees of success across a number of countries. In Britain, the prime example is the city of Preston, whose model I want to focus on. A city around the same size as ours, the same economic profile as ours, high unemployment, rising poverty rates, and in the top 20 list of most deprived areas in England, a legacy of manufacturing long gone. Harnessing research on anchor institutions, and that is large public sector organisations in their districts, such as the council itself, local colleges, university, police, and housing associations, led them to identify that of £750 million being spent by those institutions in Preston, over 458 was leaving the local economy. Establishing a procurement practitioners group, including all of these institutions, the council worked with stakeholders to redesign tenders and open up contracts to enable more local SMEs to bid for them, keeping money in the local economy. It didn't happen overnight, but the results were astonishing. An extra 274 million was kept in the local economy, supporting businesses and growing jobs. Over 4,000 new living wage jobs were created in 4 years. Unemployment was almost halved, and the council moved out of the top 20 of most deprived council areas. In research I conducted around this motion, some of the challenges are laid out. In sharing some of this information, I'm not in any way criticising any of our public sector partners. They have their own processes to follow and aren't doing anything wrong. But I do mean to demonstrate their current spend in the district for their assets in the district. I asked TransLink, Ulster University and Northwest Regional College and others in the last 5 years how many successful bidders for works or services carried out in this constituency were located in the constituency as against their overall procurement spend. TransLink said 0 successful bidders were based in Derry for construction works or services, though they stressed they used local firms for other things. UU cited FOA rules and didn't respond, but the college did, and this is where some of the figures come into their own. From 2016-17 to 2020-21, the college spent 16.2 million just in this constituency. That's key to remember. Of that 16.2 million, 1.7 was awarded to companies located in this constituency. That's just under 11% of the total. I want public money earmarked for the benefit of Derry and Strabane to stay here as much as possible. Social value is a concept that's been around for a long time, and many of our public sector partners utilise it in projects and contracts they offer, though not exclusively to them. And it's fair to say that this hasn't reached its full potential. The principles of community wealth and social value are consistent with EU law, and it's important to refer to the EU directives in order to answer the intrinsic
Councillor Doyle, could you bring your remarks to a close, please?
Well, indeed. What's stopping us? In UK law and in EU law, we will need. We are able to utilise social value in contracts. We won't be the first. Belfast did try and have not been able to go forward. But I'm under no illusion that we can make a start from here tonight, and I'm asking all members to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Okay, members. Councillor Farrell on the motion.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Doyle, for proposing this motion. You know, it makes sense. Community wealth building has the potential to transform our local economy. It has worked in Preston, and it can work here too. The central concept behind it is that local anchor organisations spend local when they can. This stimulates job creation and economic activity. It keeps money in the local economy rather than it being sucked out to other areas. And I think everybody on here would agree and would prefer that local firms in Derry, Strabane and Castledare landed big contracts across the city and district instead of companies from Belfast, Dublin and London. And we have a massive opportunity around our city deal projects. Upwards of £250 million will be spent in procurement in conjunction with our partners in the Western Trust Ulster University and Northwest Regional College. And we'd like to see local firms getting a big slice of that gigantic pie. And I note a response to an Assembly question from Sinead McLaughlin, my party colleague, who, by the way, was subjected to a bomb threat at our constituency office this afternoon. And I'd like to send solidarity to Sinead and the team and totally condemn this despicable act. She had tabled a question to Deirdre Hargey regarding community wealth building, and the community minister's response was that in her Building Inclusive Communities 5-year strategy, there is a priority commitment to grow and scale community wealth building to support economic recovery. And I have a slight amendment regarding that. I feel we as a council should write to the communities minister to understand what support she can offer to our council to implement community wealth building across our city and district. And I'd be keen to get a seconder on that, but the SDLP supports the motion, and I am putting the amendment into the chat box.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Okay, members, once again, there's an amendment on the motion here. Councillor Farrell, till you get that on the chat box. Councillor Ferguson, do you want to chat on this amendment, or do you want to wait until it goes on the screen?
No, Mayor, I can see it in the chat box. I can speak on both if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, perfect.
Okay, firstly, Mayor, can I send my solidarity to Sinead McLaughlin and completely condemn this attack on her, and send my solidarity to your team also. I think it's horrendous that she's had to deal with that. Councillor Doyle, thank you very much for bringing this motion. We fully support this motion. We think it's a great one, and it's well set out by yourself. It is one which really could help us look at how we could create long-term solutions to tackle poverty and deprivation. I know the Preston model is something we admire as a party, and I've been looking locally at how we could implement
Sorry,
it.
Councillor Ferguson. Members, could you just all remind to have your mics off? Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Ferguson, apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been looking at it locally, and we do admire it because it does make complete sense. I've also been recommended to suggest that any members or even officers with an interest in it should look at the reading a book called Paint Your Own Town Red. I think it is a fantastic model, and we're happy to also support the amendment because I think it will strengthen it. We do need buy-in from the Ministers of Communities. So, Mayor, we at the Alliance Party are happy to support this motion and the amendment from Councillor Farrell. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor, and People Before Profit will be supporting this motion and the amendment. I think this is a positive step in terms of investing in the local community and building that social wealth, but also looking at that well-being economy. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Preston City Council and the Centre for Local Economic Strategies to develop how this could be a possibility here. And I think as we build that local wealth, I think we need to constantly think of equality as well as we build that, so that that wealth is shared among all the workers for who are producing the products for our anchor organisations. And I think as we develop this model, it's going to be key that we have a fair trade almost within our district, and that workers' rights are central to this, so that cooperative models are potentially developed in a way that it's not like a top makes most money and the bottom trickle down approach, so that there's good equality as this is developed. There was an excellent discussion on this actually on Tuesday night as part of the Bloody Sunday March events, where they looked at a free dairy university, which again was about investing in that wealth and knowledge of the city, and looking at a well-being economy also for Derry and for Strabane district. So I think I would welcome this. I welcome the progress of it, And I think we need to have equality as key as it develops. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Neill. Councillor McGowan on the amendment is substantial. Do you want to talk on this one?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor, it's great to see other people now play catch up in terms of social enterprise. Sinn Féin supports any proposal which advances community wealth building. I would like to draw members' attention to PPM 01/21, which all members can read. This was a policy passed by our Finance Minister, Conor Murphy, which has become law in June of 22 this year. And it means that all tenders now must include a minimum of 10% of the total award towards social value. That rises to 20% next year, and is for all contracts, service contracts above 123,000. It also is for all contracts for construction above 4.7. I would suggest, Mayor, that we speak to Social Enterprise NI, who, along with many others, including myself, have been working on this for a number of years. This new legislation makes it imperative that the private sector who are tender must partner now with charities and social enterprises and create jobs across that sector. I believe that the Preston model, of course, is a model held up by many, but there's many reasons why at this moment in time it's not possible. I've worked with people like Stuart Dixon on the Alliance and many others, including Roy Bell and Colin Jess from SENI over the last number of years on trying to bring legislation forward. And I believe that in the next assembly there will be a Social Enterprise Act. And that is the work that's being done by people like Social Enterprise NI. So the other amendment I would put in would be to invite Social Enterprise NI with Colin Chess and his wonderful team to the business and committee, or to this committee, to present the work they're doing on this. And they will outline to members a lot of the work that's being done, and it's been led on by the Department of Finance and communities. And also see what we can do. I've spoke to him this week about this amendment, and his advice to us was, listen, Preston's great, but it's not possible without major legislative changes, but there is things that we can do. And last thing, Mayor, in Belfast, a lot of the leisure
Could you bring your remarks to a close there, please?
Yeah, last thing, a lot of leisure centres now in Belfast are run by a social enterprise. So there are people who are moving forward on this. So I have no issue with the amendment. I do believe, however, we should talk to Social Enterprise NI and see the work that they do and let them advise what we could do to improve work for the social enterprise companies in this city.
Thank you for that. Alderman Hussey, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Speak on both, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Like Councillor McGowan, I'm glad that there are those who are playing catch up, because if the records of Strabane District Council are examined, you will find in there a motion that was brought by myself and agreed by Strabane District Council with regard to the whole issue of social contracts and the maintaining of finance and support within the local area. Indeed, a report was produced by a person who is currently an officer of this council, senior officer of this council. So that report is available. The rationale was procurement borders that prevented a proper social inclusion within contracts that were being awarded. So I do welcome Councillor Doyle bringing it to the now combined council. I will be supporting it. I see merit in it. It's always good to look at other examples, whether it be Preston or elsewhere. There's no point in reinventing the wheel if there is good practice already there that can be looked at. The whole issue of procurement needs to be slackened, and I'm taking from Councillor McGowan that there has been an easing of the whole issue. Perhaps in summing up, Councillor Doyle can clarify. He talked about constituency within his figures. Was he referring to the Foyle constituency, or was he referring to Derry City and Strabane District Council area? It always encourages me, and I've come across it today when I walk through Everton Square, to see two Castlederg farms strongly involved there. And finally, Mayor, we have many small firms who have the expertise, but they don't have the critical mass to engage on many project procurements. So the issue of clustering, business clustering, to enable them to be involved in procurement on larger projects needs to be taken into consideration as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Phil Alderman. I'll say Alderman Corrigan.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in, and I do thank Councillor Doyle for bringing this proposal. Mayor, to be fair, the majority of what's been said, fully agree with. We are content enough with the proposal, and we are content with the amendment as well. That's what we want to do, particularly now as we're coming into this time of potentially COVID recovery, is trying to encourage our local firms. And so many of our businesses are small local firms. And if we can do anything to try to encourage them and try to get them to get those opportunities to get into contracts. Because, I mean, how often have you seen it whereby it's a contractor from Ballymena or from Newry that's down doing work around the Castlederg area? You know, it's someone whereby there are local men and local businesses that would be every bit as well and capable of doing it, but they're just not in that loop. So anything at all that we can do to try to encourage that, to try to build up the local businesses and give them that opportunity, and everything that we can do to encourage them. So, Mayor, more than content with the proposal. Thank Councillor Roy for bringing it, and with the amendment as well. So, fully supporting it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Corrigan. Councillor Donnelly on the amendment.
Chair, yeah. A wee bit of irony here tonight, Chair, when we have capitalist landlords in a so-called socialist party a wet week telling people it's good to see them catching up. But look, regarding the motion here, see anything that's going to give those at the bottom of the pile, the underdog, the people that need it, if it helps them, then by all means it has to be, you know, encouraged. But however, you know, when we talk about writing to the Minister for Communities, not some of the previous actions, you know, wouldn't just fill me with enthusiasm or confidence, but you know, it would nice to see it working, and I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Donnelly. Okay, members, this is on the amendment now on the screen. I'm not hearing any dissenting voices on that. Anybody looking to vote abstain or against that amendment? Could you let me know now? Okay, that amendment passes. Members, okay. The amendment now by Councillor McGowan. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Mayor. Councillor Heaney.
Councillor Heaney. Just 2 seconds here, we get this all. Okay, members, does anyone speak it? There we go now. It's on the screen. Does anybody want to come on the amendment? Okay, I'm going to take us straight to vote here, members. Is there anybody looking to vote against this or abstain? I'm not hearing any dissenting voices here. Okay. That amendment passes. So, Councillor Doyle, do you want to go back? Or sorry, was Alderman McCready look to talk on it? No. Okay, Councillor Doyle, do you want to sum up on the substantial?
Much appreciated, Mayor. Thanks again to Councillor Ferguson for seconding this. I think everyone recognises that this is a no-brainer. We should be doing everything we can to try and lift all boats in the city and district. To clarify for Derek, it was the Foyle constituency, Derek, but I'm happy to share the figures and details with you. And I think to Rory and John, both their amendments add value. I think that particularly get social enterprise NIN, let's hear from as many experts as possible. This is the start of a journey. Hopefully we can stick with it and see the long-term benefits. And thanks to all members who spoke on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Doyle. Okay, members, on the substantial, I'm going to take a day of vote now. I'm not hearing any dissenting voices, so anybody wishing to go against or abstain, could you let me know now? Okay, the substantial motion passes. All members. Moving on now to Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGinley? Councillor Gallagher? Apologies. I'm flying ahead here, folks. Councillor Gallagher, have you a seconder there?
I'll second that, Chair. Councillor Donnelly.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gallagher.
I thought you were pushing me out there, Mayor. Thank you. I think the motion is read. Members. Hi, look. We're talking here like people are well aware. Free security. These mining companies, Atlantis, Dalradian, they've come in to the north of Ireland. They've come in to plunder it. And they're bragging on their websites about taking thousands of ounces of gold out of the ground and out of the north. They're on there bragging about getting reimbursed hundreds of thousands of pounds for security that was previously supplied them, all at a cost to us, the ratepayers and the taxpayers, and this country. See, these companies, they won't be contributing to building schools, or much needed hospitals, or much needed roads. Not a penny. They'll ship billions out of this country and hand it to their capitalist investors to fill their profits. While we, and places like Strabane and places like Derry, are putting on gates, as we've talked about earlier, we see high levels of crime and no resources to deal with them. While we're constantly giving these companies our money and providing free security. I call on the members and this council to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gallagher. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And I have to say that the DUP will not be supporting this notice of motion here. And the DUP can say, look, that our question is, and we will say that we can't determine what the operations the PSNI must carry out in particular industries. And, when you look at the PSNI, they have to carry out services for transportation of explosives due to the prevailing terrorist threat in Northern Ireland. It's a part of their, and we believe, Mayor, it's part of their statutory obligation around how explosives are managed. When we look and around the transportation of explosive, when we look at the quarry industry, they use explosives as well. And, will this be the next thing on the list that Councillor Gallagher may bring in, and he doesn't mention here? But if this was to follow through, it could open the door to many other organisations that use the police services. I think this is a very dangerous motion coming forward here, and I do believe, Mayor, that is setting a very, very dangerous precedent. And when we look at the transportation of explosive for mining and quarrying, they're actually security-related services and not some special services afforded to businesses and quarrying who need this service when they're transporting explosive. And if there was no prevailing terrorist threat as deemed by the PSNI, there'd be no need for these security transport services. And we do believe, our party believes, that this is an operational matter for the PSNI, and it's underpinned by legislation and is not an issue for the Justice Minister. And as I said earlier on, Mayor, I do believe this is setting a very, very dangerous precedent. If we as a council are going to dictating to the PSNI who they provide a service for. But Mayor, we will not be supporting the notice of motion.
Thank you, Alderman. Do we have any Councillor Ferguson?
Thank you, Mayor. I was hoping to get some clarification from Councillor Gallagher whenever he was speaking, that he states that the PSNI are providing security. I'm wondering, is this day-to-day security, or is it in reaction to a perceived threat for that commercial company? Where I entirely agree, some commercial businesses need a level of security and should do so within their means. The same goes with any business. If there's staff that's under perceived threat, then the PSNI should respond. Most security services within our retail sector cannot necessarily intervene when something is being stolen or someone's being threatened. All they can do indeed is try and defuse the situation, but they rely on the PSNI to respond to any incidents. As for writing to the Justice Minister, Alderman Devaney just outlined, again, Minister Long doesn't have any jurisdiction over police operations, and this really should be a letter, if you're going to do it, to the police constable or the oversight bodies that look over policing issues. And if members aren't content with the accountability of those bodies, I will highlight that Minister Long has opened a consultation on the stocktake of police and oversight and accountability, and it's open until the 1st of March. So I urge you to feed into that consultation. I'm keen to hear the answers to the member on the level of security being given, because I do believe, even if you don't agree with the company's remit, you can't go away even their employees' right to be safe. So, Mayor, as I don't know enough about the claims of free security, and I think it's a way, to possibly try and isolate these commercial businesses from access to the PSNI. I don't think we're able to support this motion at this moment in time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Barr?
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. We in the SDLP are happy to support the sentiments behind this motion and thank Councillor Gallagher for bringing it. I do think it's completely outrageous that at a time when policing budget is facing cuts and recruitment suspended, that the PSNI are not pursuing this money from Dalradian. I have read that the bill since 2016 is well over £1 million, which could do a lot in terms of enhancing community policing throughout our district. While the PSNI have defended themselves and outlined that they have statutory responsibilities in terms of escorting explosives, I don't think this waste of public money and resources washes well with many people out there, especially the vast majority of people locally who oppose plans of this gold mine. I do support the motion, Mayor, but believe it should be strengthened to include writing to the Chief Constable and the Chair of the Northern Ireland Policing Board. I think it is important that both the Chief Constable and the Chair of the Policing Board need to be lobbied on this, as it is ultimately an operational issue for the PSNI, as well as a legislative issue and a statutory issue of the Justice Minister. And just before I conclude, Mayor, I see that in the motion it states ratepayer. I don't think the ratepayer pays for the PSNI, so I don't know if Councillor Gallagher wants to amend that part himself to the taxpayer, as it could mislead the public on this. And so, Mayor, just to conclude, the SDLP are going to propose an amendment, which I will now happily put in the chat box. And again, happy that Councillor Gallagher has brought this motion forward and has taken such interest in ensuring that the PSNI budget is spent properly. Thank you.
Okay, members, the amendment's just been drawn up. Have you a second there, Councillor Barr?
Second, Mayor, Councillor Edwards.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Councillor Harrigan, do you want to speak on that amendments on the chat box there?
Happy to speak, Mayor.
On the amendment, yeah?
On both.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, look, I want to thank Councillor Gallagher for bringing forward this motion. We completely agree. It's outrageous that a very profitable, very wealthy corporation is getting free services from the PSNI at a time when 30% of people in our district are living below the poverty line, at a time when energy bills and other cost of living increases means that destitution is going to rise in our district and right across the north. And it's shameful that this is happening. And one of the ironies is that while Dalradian gets services from the PSNI for free, PSNI are cracking down on people who are campaigning to stop toxic mining in the Sperrins. They're criminalising them. And we shouldn't need to be reminded that our council opposes what Dalradian is doing, opposes toxic mining. And I think what this exposes is the attempt by, this is capitalism. This is about Stormont, the police, big corporations doing whatever they want, riding roughshod over democracy, not caring about what people want locally, putting it in our face, and basically doing it because they can get away with it. And the reality is, it's not going to be the people of Sperrins or our district that benefit from whatever Dalradian gets away with. It's going to be the fat cats that run this corporation and those who have signed up to help them get through, to try and drive this project through, despite the scale of resistance that it's meeting. That seems to be what's happening. So this is just about the corruption that exists, the cozy relationship that exists between the Stormont executive and Dalradian, and the police playing their role in terms of helping to green light a project that is going to damage our environment for generations and isn't going to do anything about the massive inequality that we have in our district. So we commend Councillor Gallagher's motion and we're going to be backing it.
Thank you for that. Okay. Michaela, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Yeah, I'll speak to the motion and the amendment.
Yeah.
Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Sinn Féin are happy to support the motion and thank Councillor Gallagher for bringing it to the floor. Sinn Féin is opposed to the decision that mineral exploration and mining companies will be provided with full security services by the PSNI, paid for by the public purse. We do also, within the body of the motion, support the call to the Justice Minister calling on her to withdraw the free services. Back in 2016-2017, when Dalradian refused to pay the bill to the tune of almost £400,000, they dug their heels in and it seemed to have paid off. They got away in the smoke and then it fell on the taxpayers. So it beggars belief how much has been paid since, at a time when people are finding it very difficult to make ends meet. We are constantly being told by the PSNI that resources on the ground and the lack of them are impacting on proper policing services to the community. This money would be better well spent elsewhere. Also, site security services should be paid for by the mining company, not by the public. Policing in the community, in terms of finance, this money would be better spent within the local areas of the community. We have no problem either with the amendment that Councillor Barr has brought, calling on a letter to the chair of the policing board and the chief constable also to withdraw these free services. And just to make the point that was made earlier today to someone who had been talking about this motion, people have been taken to court and jailed for not paying their TV licence. And here we have a company, a mining company, they're multi-billionaires that won't pay for the security if they need it or want it. And it comes out of the taxpayers in here pockets. So thank you, Mayor. We'll be supporting the motion.
Okay, members. Councillor Rivenbar.
Thank you, Mayor. I speak to both the motion and the amendment, and also like to thank Councillor Gallagher for bringing the motion. Look, The PSNI have already written off a £437,000 bill. This bill was for providing security services for Dalradian between August 2015 to June 2016, and this during a time when the mine wasn't supposed to be operational. The mine boggles at the potential cost of providing security for these firms at a time the costs of heating and eating have gone through the roof. Money is no object to Dalradian, as we have seen in our handouts to anyone prepared to take it as they attempt to seduce the public. It's outrageous to expect the public to foot the bill for what is nothing more than a smash and grab rate on our communities and environment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Alderman McCready, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Yep, no, I'll do both, Mayor. Thanks. Firstly, there's two issues which have been conflated time and time again. So yes, members can have a position on whether or not they agree or disagree with the Dalradian company and what they're doing. But on the issue which has been faced with myself and the UUP on this motion is whether or not the PSNI are providing security service to a commercial company, and are the public paying for it? Now, if that was the case, I would certainly have an issue with it, because clearly I would rather see money spent elsewhere in the community. But if there's a statutory obligation by any department, in this case through Justice or the PSNI, if they're obligated to do that, irrespective whether you agree or disagree with the client or the person, it should be indistinguishable, from them as a service they provide security. And I know Member Devaney mentioned about issues surrounding explosives or material, which is of that type of nature. That's been in place for a long time here in Northern Ireland, not only just because of the history we have here, but because of the substance itself. So I was actually 50-50 on this, because I understand where it's coming from to attack Dalradian, on good cause, I have no doubt. But because it's an issue with the public purse, and whether or not is this company being treated differently than a local company who may need the services of the PSNI, or myself, if I called 999, is that detracting away from the everyday service from the PSNI? So personally, I wouldn't mind the clarification on that. I'm not going to get it listening to members with different agendas and motives in here. So, and as a result of this motion, we're sending a letter to the Justice Minister, Chair of the Policing Board, or the Chief Constable. It's no harm done, and I would gladly see a response to the allegations, or indeed the questions which are in this council. So on that grounds, I'm happy to support the amendment and indeed the full motion for the sake of clarity and actually getting on with council business. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Doyle, on the amendment.
I'll speak on both just, Mayor, if that's okay, and I'll keep it brief. When I read this, I thought fair play to Councillor Gallagher for bringing it forward, because it beggars belief that the so-called police service are providing these services to a private company worth billions, but when pensioners need them and try to ring them on the phone, it takes them 3 hours to come out. That having been said, I'm not necessarily surprised that this is the approach that's being taken. I think at one stage, the PSNI tried to blame so-called dissident Republicans for the cost of providing security on the site. It wouldn't necessarily be the first time, I suppose, that the police here have helped people move explosives, but that's, I suppose, an issue for another day. But absolutely support the motion. It's absolutely outrageous, and I don't know how anybody could think that it's appropriate to handle the bill to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Alderman Ramsey.
Sorry, could you, Jill, just let Alderman Devaney speak there?
Yeah, okay, Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me back in on the amendment. We will not be supporting the amendment because, look, we believe the PSNI have a statutory obligation to deliver a service. And, at the end of the day, we talk about costings, and we're talking about writing to the policing board, the Chief Constable. What is the policing board members doing? From those who are supporting this today, are they raising it with when they're meeting at their policing board meetings? I haven't read it in any correspondence or any news outlets that I have seen. We will not be supporting. I would call back on Councillor Harkin again, once again. If he has evidence that the PSNI are intimidating or helping Dalradian and their support for a planning application going through there, that he provides the evidence, not just orally, get the hard fact evidence and put it in front of us. But Chair, we will not be supporting the amendment. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Barr, just to let you know, that will have to come through now as another amendment. So I'm just going to move on. We'll come back to that one to Alderman Hussey. Is this on this amendment?
Is
Chair,
Alderman Ramsey to come in?
Chair, Councillor Boyle, just to make the point, Chair, that Councillor Barr did suggest that ratepayer was changed to taxpayer when he spoke.
Chair, Councillor Donnelly's my understanding that he suggested Councillor Gallagher do that.
It's up to Councillor Gallagher on that, so it is, members. Councillor Gallagher, are you happy enough with that?
I put the motion in, and this went through the legal department, and the legal department were happy with the motion. So
Yeah, no, totally. So if Councillor Barr wants to ask the members, I'm moving on. Alderman Hussey, Alderman Ramsey's not speaking. Go you ahead on the amendment on the screen.
On the basic full motion and amendment, I'm having the difficulty here dividing two things. Number one is the whole Dalradian thing. Number two is the provision of security services, and I'm very like Councillor Ferguson here on this one. When I first became a reserve constable in 1966, one of my first jobs was guarding a dynamite store just outside Omagh. So police have been providing this sort of service to mining companies and indeed construction companies who would sometimes have to use explosives for a long, long time. And to suddenly turn around and say, no, we're not going to do that anymore, seems very strange to me. There is a responsibility that the material that is being taken care of by the security forces has to be handled and dealt with in the way it is. So I'm still undecided on this, and I think it's unfortunate that Councillor Gallagher is mixing up two particular issues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Donnelly, this is the final one now in the amendment, members.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, look, when you read this, initially, and I know I did second it, there's first of all, Dalradian are from what I'm seeing in videos and that, are using the PSNI as a private security firm, to bully and intimidate locals. When I did second this tonight, even having done that, I do have problems with the terminology of a justice minister. I don't think that it's possible to have a justice minister in the 6 counties. And whilst I don't have any great faith in either the policing board or the PSNI chief constable withdrawing these free services, I am going to back this motion and amendment, because in the spirit of it, the corporate position of council will be against what is happening here. So I will support it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, members. I'm going to pass now to John to take us to vote on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Evans?
Against.
Alderman Devaney?
Against.
Alderman Guy? Alderman Guy?
Abstain.
Alderman Hussey. Alderman Hussey.
Apologies against.
Alderman Carrigan. Alderman Carrigan. Alderman McClintock.
Against, John.
Alderman McCready.
John, abstention, please. Thanks.
Alderman Ramsey.
Against.
Alderman Wark.
Against.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Sorry, for John.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
For.
Councillor Carr.
For.
Councillor Cusick.
For.
Councillor Dobbins.
For, John.
Councillor Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Doyle.
For.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
For.
Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
Abstain.
Councillor Fleming.
For John.
Councillor Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor Heaney.
For John.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Kelly.
For.
Councillor Loeb.
For.
Councillor McGinley.
For, John.
Councillor McGowan.
For.
Councillor McGuire. Councillor McGuire. Councillor McHugh.
For.
Councillor McKinney. Councillor McKinney. Councillor Mooney.
For.
Councillor O'Neill.
For.
Councillor Riley.
For.
Councillor Sino Boer. Councillor Sino Barr. Thank you, members.
John, I had voted against in the chat box there. Apologies.
Well, that was Councillor.
Councillor Carrigan, was that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Members, the vote's now closed as I'm counting. Thank you. Now I've recorded 25 for, 7 against, and 3 abstentions, so the amendment passes.
Okay, thank you, John, for that. Okay, thank you for that, John. Councillor Jason Barr, do you want to bring an amendment on now?
No, I'll leave it as it is.
Okay, okay, members, moving back to substantial motion now. I don't see any further members looking to talk on this. Councillor Gallagher, you want to sum up?
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us back in again. And I think Alan Breslin shouting there in the background. Maybe I didn't like the vote, but Mayor, I'd just like to thank all the members that have supported this. I think that this is going to become a very important factor within this city and district in the years to come, and I'm very grateful for the support that is received. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gallagher. So I'm going to pass back to John here for the substantial vote. I think it's much going to be very much the same with the parties. Would it be right? On the against was the DEP.
Yep, Chair, we would be against it. DEP will be against it. Like that.
Yeah, there's going to be no changes there, members. Would it be right? Yeah. Everybody would be voting the same. Okay, members, that substantial motion passes also then. Members, moving on now Councillor McGinley, you'll be happy to know.
Very good, Mayor. I'm going to just take the motion as read.
Yeah, have you a seconder?
I believe I do.
I'll second that, Mayor. Thank you, Patricia Logue.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia.
Thanks, Patricia. So I'm bringing this motion forward to this meeting as I feel it's important that where there's council facilities within communities, that the opportunities for the local community to make use of those facilities is maximised and encouraged. Following continuous engagement with the local community organisations in the Craigan area, it's been highlighted time and time again that the sports hall at the Bishopsfield could be used a lot more than it currently is. Prior to the pandemic, there had been some engagement with the local community sector to look at the options for the management of the sports hall and access. However, as with many things, it was put on the back burner to allow the pandemic to be dealt with. But now as we're moving out of the COVID restrictions, I believe it's timely that we bring this motion forward and to see movement. There's been previous instances where a community managed model has increased community use of council facilities. And so I would like to see what options there are to be able to move this forward and find the best fit for the community in Craigan. My party colleague and predecessor in the council, Tina Burke, had been working on this issue alongside other party colleagues in conjunction with community groups who were looking to use the sports hall. And this motion is a continuation of this work and engagement. And it's my ask that members will support the motion to allow council officers to explore community management models that could have the potential to increase and maximise the usage of the Bishopsfield Sports Hall. I am aware that there will be some concerns around what this is going to mean for the staff that currently work in the sports hall, and it's with this in mind that I'm asking for officers to look at different community management models that are available and present the options that then can be considered by the committee. Staff should be a part of that process, and I have no doubt that they will be consulted. The main purpose of this motion is to ensure that the facilities within the community are being used as much as possible, that they're available for use by the local community, and that we need to be doing all that we can to maximise the use of our facilities, and for this to be done as soon as is possible. Given the previous engagements have already happened prior to COVID, I would be eager that this be moved as soon as possible and the report be presented back to either committee or full council as soon as possible in order to prevent any delays in progressing this moving forward. It's only a suggestion that if a paper could be brought forward by March, say, it would allow the decision to be made on the best approach going forward. I'm hopeful that members will support the motion and allow the work to commence. Thank
you, Councillor McGinley. Okay, members, on the motion now, it is Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have an amendment to the motion. I'll just put it in the chat box here.
No worries. We'll just wait. We're on the ball with amendments tonight, members. There we go, straight on. Just 2 seconds, Councillor O'Neill. And you have a seconder. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the amendment is just really strengthening what Councillor McGinley has just said, really, you know, in terms of making sure, you know, trade unions and workers are involved in whatever process and whatever conversation is happening in terms of looking at the options, you know, because they are on the ground alongside the local community who use this community asset. So it's just to really broaden that conversation. And as Councillor McGinley already said, for a report to come back to the relevant committee. So, you know, I don't think the amendment is anything different from what Councillor McGinley hasn't said. It's just maybe strengthening the motion. You know, I think it's important to look at our community assets and look at how they're being used, utilised, and always to continuously engage with the local community about how it can be done better. And how, like, what are the needs of the local community and how can they be met with that asset. So I think I would welcome this opportunity to explore the, you know, the usage of the sports hall at Bishopsfield and having that as a good, wide open conversation with all the stakeholders involved. So happy to support my amendment. All right.
Thank you, Fred, Councillor. O'Neill. Councillor Boyle, John Boyle, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, initially, can I just point out that myself, my colleague, I was just about to say some parts and pieces of the amendment are just disappearing as I'm watching them up in front of us. Mayor, what's in front of us, I wouldn't mind having taken a view from the city solicitor. I don't envisage any great degree of a problem with it, but at this juncture, it might be useful to do that before I do speak.
On what part there, Councillor Boyle?
It's all looking rather repetitive at the minute. I think perhaps we should allow the clerk to tidy it up for us, and then perhaps there will be no requirement for a view from such. So I'm content to give it a second or two here.
Just 2 seconds here, members.
I think it just might be how I amended the motion. I think I just, rather than add in words here and there, I just wrote it in full, Mayor. So maybe that's what the problem was. I don't know.
Councillor Boyle, I think that's what the problem was. From ourselves here in the parlour, we're happy enough what's on the screen from the city solicitor. So
that's
are you happy to talk on the amendment?
Yeah, that looks more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. That looks more like it. It's a bit tidier looking now, and I was fairly sure I knew exactly where Councillor O'Neill was coming from, but I just thought it needed tidied up. And I hate to be a pedant, but we have to get these things right, I suppose. Just to say, again, on behalf of the SDLP, we're entirely supportive of the idea. I think the key word that Councillor McGinley has put in here is the word explore, and obviously that we would always have wanted that to be in conjunction with the local community. Councillor O'Neill's amendment makes it stronger because that explores along with trade unions, workers, and of course ourselves as elected representatives. I was going to point out, but it has already been mentioned, of course, it is important also to consider the future going forward for those council employees who are based at Bishopsfield. But I'm sure that'll all work itself out over the period of time going ahead. And I don't really think there's very much more that I need to expand on that. There are other good examples of this kind of initiative moving forward that have been beneficial for local communities. I'm not going to list them, but I know which ones I'm thinking on. I'm sure others can think of them too. So just to say again, to put on the record the SDLP support for the amendment in front of us, and I would expect that will be the substantive motion at the end of all of this as well. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And look, we have no problem with the motion and the amendment here. And I think it's important. I think the question is here is to utilise the facilities to their max. And I think that's what they're really looking for here. And I do take on board the issue and around employees. It's important that's taken on board. But Mayor, this will all come back, to a committee and a paper. So look forward to seeing it come back. But happy to support the amendment and the proposal then.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Donnelly on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair, and happy to second the amendment.
Yeah, got that. Yeah, thank you.
No, look, when I read this motion initially, I was a bit concerned because it was very vague. If this motion is simply about maximising the use of the building and making it more, accessible, more cheaper, the groups are encouraging them, then I have no problem with that. But unfortunately, there is a perception, among some people in the community that, it could be an attempt at privatisation by stealth or to offload it to the community group. And I know that the workers would not want that type of, they're happy enough working where they are. And I was just a bit confused, but I think Councillor O'Neill's amendment strengthens that. I have spoke to some community workers today, and they weren't aware of any sort of consultation. So I think it's important that when this consultation happens, it is wide ranging and includes everyone in the community. So happy to support the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Dolly. Okay, members, I see no further speakers on the amendment here. So, I see no further speakers on the amendment, so I'm not hearing any dissenting voices to on this amendment. If there's anybody against, could you let me know now? Or against? Abstaining? None, so the amendment passes. So members moving back, I'm going to bring in Councillor McGinley now to sum up on the substantial motion. Councillor McGinley?
Mayor, no, I was happy enough with that amendment as well. It sort of had all that in my speaking notes, so it does just really strengthen it. The purpose of this, obviously, you know, it's about utilising the facilities that are sitting within our communities. We're trying not to have another white elephant. So I appreciate the support that's come forward. We should be looking at all options, which is why I use the word explore in conjunction with the local community, as there is groups there that want to use the sports hall and might find it difficult for whatever reason. So actually this motion, having this passed, it means that we can then start to see progress on this for the community in Craigan. So Gorabega to those that spoke in favour, it's much appreciated, and I'm sure it'll be exciting to see how it moves forward.
Thank you for that, Councillor McGinley. Okay, members, the substantial motion now, I'm not hearing no dissenting voices in this 1 hour. If anybody's against or looking to abstain on substantial motion, could you let me know? Okay, members, the substantial motion passes. Members, moving on to the next councillor, Councillor McGowan, to move. Just bring it up on the screen. And have you a seconder on that, please? Councillor McGowan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, have you got a seconder?
I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Duffy, okay, go ahead, Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Mayor. Invest in I, I'll take the motion as read. Invest in I has really failed to deliver for the North, and particularly the Derry and Strabane area. I was around when IDB and Ledgy and R2 were 3 separate agencies, and there was this great mission to create a signal agency. But it's fair to say that it has failed to deliver, particularly FDI across the North. And it's particularly failed to deliver, as many of other councillors have said, for the Derry and Strabane council area. And it's also failed to deliver for most SMEs throughout the North. One of the other things that it has ignored has been social enterprises, which have now found much of their support coming from the Department of Communities. Mayor, it has 500 staff plus based in Belfast. There's only 12 in the Derry and Strabane council area. There's no local staff that can deal with tourism or FDI, and there's no client executives that deals with the large companies. It's not a regional office. And it's blinded, Mayor, recently with a lot of political dogma, which fails to see the huge dividend that the protocol can give. And during COVID, Invest failed in many ways to support companies, and without the intervention of the Department of Finance, many would have went to the wall. It's now on its third chief executive, or sorry, the Department of Economy is on its third minister in 8 months, and has announced recently a review of Invest in I. This review will not go far enough. It's only looking at efficiency and effectiveness to deliver a strategy. The model, Mayor, is broken. It doesn't work. It has failed. And it has failed for many reasons. You only have to look across the border at IDA, which last year published that over 70% of all investment went outside Dublin. And you look at the success of Enterprise Ireland. So, Mayor, I'm looking for real sub-regional development, not what we currently have, and I'm asking for that motion to be passed. and that we cite the FDA headquarters in the event of any reorganisation, that we have the confidence and the ambition to cite that here in the Derry and Strabane council area, as I believe that it'll be one of the greatest things we can do to level up. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, members, moving on now on the motion. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor McGowan, for proposing this motion, and the SDLP fully support it. And I'm going to give you some commentary on that. And I have said this time and time again since I've come into council about how ineffective Invest NI have been in terms of promoting jobs in the Northwest. It's abundantly clear and abundantly apparent that Invest NI works for Belfast and it fails miserably for Derry and the City and District. It attracts jobs, opportunity and investment to Belfast and very little of anything to our city. And we have said for 2 years that Invest NI must have regional targets and a key focus on investment and jobs in the Northwest. And we have invited the Economy Minister repeatedly to discuss these proposals. And it must be remembered that the Economy Minister has complete control over Invest NI policy. Regional targets have not been introduced. Nothing has changed. And the Economy Minister, despite numerous invitations, has not shown up. The latest response that everybody's going to see in their meeting pack suggests that the DUP Minister does not have diary availability at present. No DUP Economy Minister over the last 2 years has a diary availability. Either they're very busy or they don't care. I suspect the latter. I firmly believe that the DUP is allergic to this city. I firmly believe that the DUP has little concern for this city and district and its prospects. And whether you call this place Derry, Dura or Londonderry, they just don't care. And everyone, regardless of what you call this place, benefits from more jobs and better jobs. And at the minute, everybody is being failed. The SDLP welcomes this review into the operation of Invest NI. We support this motion.
Councillor Farrell, can you bring your remarks to a close, please?
I'm going to propose an amendment. And it should be noted that the review that the Councillor McGowan is proposing has already been agreed, and it was announced yesterday or the day before. And Sir Michael Lyons has said in the press release that he's looking forward to working with key stakeholders from all sectors and all regions across the north. So I'm going to propose an amendment that we seek a meeting with Sir Michael Lyons, so we can make the argument for fundamental reform of Invest NI, which delivers regional balance and results in a renewed focus for the Northwest. So I'm going to put that in the chat box, Mayor. There you go.
Have you got a second there for that, Councillor Farrell?
Councillor Riley is seconded in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gallagher, do you want to speak on the amendment?
Chair, I was just looking, Chair, they just a slight when they talk about largely failed Derry, and wherever it mentions Derry is to include Derry and Strabane or Derry and the district, because Strabane has very much been failed as well. So I don't think that we should isolate this. This is generic across our district. Therefore, the district should be included, and that includes Strabane.
Yeah, Councillor Gallagher, we're going to have to deal here what's on the screen at the minute then. So, Councillor Hargan on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, I think that it's well understood that InvestNI has failed the people of Derry and Strabane district and the whole Northwest. And no matter how many appeals we have made, it's fallen on deaf ears because the strategy never seems to change. And but I think we have to go beyond that and say a bit more about it, because this is really about a failed economic model that the Stormont executive has had for the North for the last 2 decades, that is failing the people of Derry and Strabane, and but also failing people right across the North. That economic strategy is to promote privatisation, to downgrade our public services, and that's what we're seeing. Because not everybody's struggling right now. As everybody knows, we have 30% of people here living below the poverty line. But some people are doing great. There's more millionaires now in the North than ever before. So it's not the case that everybody's losing out, and that's true in our district. The vast majority of people are losing out because of a failed economic strategy that has been endorsed by all the parties in Stormont. And now we're reaping the whirlwind. We're reaping the result of that today with growing inequality, and that's going to increase because of the impact of the pandemic, because of now this cost of living crisis. So yes, we need a full investigation in the InvestNI. We need a complete change in the way that anybody treats the Northwest in terms of investment, in terms of job development, skill development, and everything else that results in structural inequality here. But it's not true that everybody's losing out in Derry and Strabane. The vast majority of people are losing out. And it's also worth pointing out that, InvestNI have toxic FDI policies. They sit down and do deals with corrupt regimes all the time. The latest one is their involvement in Oman, with the PSNI and InvestNI all involved in what became a massive crackdown.
Sir Hargan,
civil
could you
rights
bring
protests
your
there.
remarks to a close, please?
So yeah, look, we agree there should be, it's already been agreed that there will be an investigation into how InvestNI operates, but it's already clear that there's a failed economic strategy for the North that needs fundamentally challenged and transformed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hargan. Alderman Taveri, you wish to speak on the amendment?
Yep, Chair. Look, we have no problem with the amendment, and I can speak on the motion as well. Look, we understand the underinvestment in the Northwest, and I'm delighted some other councillors have realised here that not only Londonderry but also in Strabane. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed. I've mentioned this many times before about underinvestment. When you look at the investment goes into the east according to the west, there is a serious disparity there. But look, at the end of the day, was it last week, InvestNI invested nearly £2 million in the Everton Square venture. And, those small mercies have to be welcome, but is it enough? I don't believe it is. And I believe we should be doing all we can to have more investment and protect our businesses and jobs here in the Northwest, and that's including Londonderry and Strabane. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you for Alderman Taveri. Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Mayor. No issues with the amendment. I actually welcome the amendment. It'd be really good to get Sir Michael down in front of stakeholders so we can evidence the disparity and how broken the system is with InvestNI. I'm happy to support the full motion if this does go through as well. So just record my interest. I was a client with InvestNI with a private business 2 years ago, and discontinued that. Discontinued that well over a year ago. But just put it on there for record. But I've got no pecuniary interest or anything else. So I've seen it from both sides. Whether it's in business and indeed as an elected rep. And 9 times out of 10, when you do business, you're pretty much going focused to go to Belfast to get anything taken seriously with regards to InvestNI. And even you look at the numbers, I know there's been numbers mentioned recently, a few million here and there, but that is absolutely pennies when it comes to the scale of both the portfolio of the economy and InvestNI. And it's almost seen that we've just got the scraps of the table from Belfast with regards to InvestNI. And when I look at the future, when we talk about exploiting the city deals, the future inclusive fund, the Freeport model and everything else, that should be a springboard for our city district and the entire region to really create the city to be a competitor with all other major cities. So absolutely no issues with this. Actually looking forward to try and break the system entirely so we can rebuild it so it works for people in the Northwest region in terms of business, communities and all the rest of the beneficiaries. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman McCready. Councillor Dolly on the amendment.
Chair, no, I was going to make an amendment, so it'd probably be better holding off just to this is dealt with.
Perfect. Could you get on the chat box there, Councillor Dolly? And we'll keep working on. Alderman Hussey on the amendment.
Just on the overall proposal with the amendment sitting in front of us. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, and thanks to Councillor McGowan for bringing the motion. It's a common cry that we're all singing from the same handbook on this particular issue. I did have some concerns with the wording. Those concerns were allayed by Councillor McGowan when he actually spoke to the motion and elaborated that when he was talking about Derry, he was in fact referring to the entire council area, and indeed in the post review, the headquarters within the Derry and Strabane district area. So perhaps folk, if they mean the district council area, could say that in motions in the future. I'll take it on face value that that is what Councillor McGowan is referring to, and that it's not just a city-based motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alderman Hussey. Okay, members, we have an amendment on it. If I see no further speakers on the amendment, I'm going to take a tape vote. I'm not here to any dissenting voices on this, Eller. If anybody's against or looking the yeah. Okay, members, that member passes. Okay, I see Councillor Donnelly now with another amendment on that.
Yeah, Chair, look, speaking to Councillor Gallagher, he's having some IT difficulties, but I think we're at danger here of being what we're accusing others of being, particularly the Derry people here. If we're saying that Belfast, everything's Belfast centric, and then we produce a motion here and we talk solely about Derry, then, what we're saying, the Strabane and Newton Sturt and the Derg and places like that, we're in danger of sending out the wrong signal. So I think that if we put in them minor amendments just after each Derry, I think that should deal with that issue.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Get 2 seconds to get these up. And do you have a second there by Alderman Hussey? I think members, I'm going to take it. I think we're not going to have any issues with that one. I see one at the very, yep, there. Members, I'm not here on this amendment. I'm not hearing any dissenting voices on that anyway. Everybody happy enough to take that forward? Okay, members, that amendment passes. Okay, who's up now? And Councillor McGowan, they sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with all the points made by Councillor McCready and Rory Farrell as well, Councillor Farrell. And as Councillor Donnelly said earlier, I'm only on here a wet week, so I apologise for the language. I should have said Derry and Strabane, but I said that when I was speaking. Listen, the only worry I have with the review being done by Mr. Lyons is that the review seems to be around how efficient and how effective investing in is. I believe the model is broken. I believe that Derry needs the ambition. They asked to be the FDI headquarters, just like Cork would. No one would blink an eye. So that's only, if we're going to write the Mr. Michael Lyons or Lord Lyons or Lord Michael Lyons, we should definitely install that we're looking for a written branch review of the model, not just the organisation. But And I believe the new model of the organisation will be much better to benchmark against the ADA and Enterprise Ireland. So thanks for supporting it, and thanks very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that there. Okay, members, for the substantial motion on the table here, I'm not hearing any dissenting voices on that. Anybody against it, could you let me know now on the chat box or on the screen here? Okay, members, the substantial motion passes. Members, we're going to take a break. I think we all deserve it here. So I will see you all back at 8:30. So thank you, members. Okay, members, welcome back. And moving on to Alderman Devaney and Alderman McClintock to move. We'll just get up on the screen.
Thank you, Mayor. And if you're content, I'll speak on this first. And then when it comes to summing up at the very end before the vote, Alderman Devaney will come in then.
Yeah, have you a seconder there?
I'd like to second that, Alderman Ramsey.
Thank you. Go ahead, Alderman McClintock.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, the Platinum Jubilee of Her Majesty the Queen is for a sizable number of people in this district a momentous occasion, one that we will definitely never again see in our lifetime. It's a historic occasion, never before known in this country, to have a monarch on the throne for such a period of time. In fact, worldwide, the only time a monarch has been longer on the throne was Louis XIV of France reigned from 1643 to 1715, 72 years. But for our events here, they'll be taking place over the extended bank holiday weekend, which will be from Thursday the 2nd to Sunday the 5th of June 22, and that's national events. This event, Mayor, doesn't fit into the normal Decade of Centenaries programme, being as a Platinum Jubilee marks the 70th anniversary of the succession to the throne. And I'm not in any way suggesting that Council organise events to mark the occasion, but rather that they accommodate, where possible and appropriate, any in-kind requests for assistance from local organisers. Nationally, the programme of events and the services will be taking place over that weekend. I'd also request that Council seek to identify if there are any possible pots of funding and mechanisms that local community groups might be able to apply to or utilise for their own local celebrations. We appreciate that not all members of this council will wish to celebrate, but in the interests of good community relations and celebrating the cultural diversity of our residents, that every effort be made to enable those who wish to celebrate to do so. So in summary, Mayor, I would just again reiterate, this notice of motion is to ask officers to consider appropriate mechanisms for marking this historic and momentous occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Alderman McClintock. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, the previous speaker says that many people here want to celebrate this. Chair, many more people in this city will see this as divisive and toxic, and no self-respecting socialist or Republican can have any truck with this, Chair. Council should not in any way have anything to do with this. Given that on this week, it is the 50th anniversary of the murder of unarmed civil rights marchers, and the killers, their murderers, was decorated by this same person. This person decorated the killers of unarmed civilians, and then in later years gave others involved gongs like an MBE. It's an absolute disgrace. It's divisive, it's toxic, and this council should not have anything whatsoever to do with this. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Mayor, for bringing me in, and I take the comments made by the proposer when she was speaking to it in relation to the way that this is being brought forward, and the way the motion is written. It has also been clearly given a lot of thought, and I'm conscious of the week that we are in, but I'm also conscious of what we said earlier today in relation to the need to be sensitive and respectful here, and being respectful of the fact that for many citizens across our council area, this Jubilee will be of significance to them and their families. In the spirit of that approach taken in the decades of centenary events in the past, this council has led the way in relation to how we deal with such events in a way that is respectful, and it should be open to any interested community groups to celebrate an important date on the calendar. This week sees the second anniversary of the passing of Seamus Mallon, the former Deputy First Minister, and certainly an individual who inspired many people, not just those in the SDLP. And on his second anniversary, we remember a man who dedicated his life to peace and his vision for the people of this island, to work together, to live together in generosity and compassion, and to live in a shared home place. So it's on that basis that we're supportive of the motion here this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor, and on behalf of Sinn Féin, very conscious of the week, the Senate, and the long campaign for justice that Bloody Sunday families have had to mount against opposition, both in England and here locally. As a party, we recognise and respect that many people here hold the British royal family in high esteem and wish to celebrate the Jubilee. However, there are many others who feel very differently, not least because of the British royal family's long-standing links to the British military. As a council, we do have a duty to ensure everyone's rights are respected. And as we have unfortunately seen in the past, there can be a thin line between genuine celebration and coat trial. And we believe we need to ensure that that doesn't happen. Given the fact that there isn't a lot of detail within this motion, and the suggestion is that it goes back to council officers, Sinn Féin will abstain on the motion. And obviously, when it comes time to look at what comes forward as hopefully being a genuine celebration for those people within our district who subscribe to the royal family, the British royal family, then we will judge them on their merits. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman McClintock mentioned that Louis XIV had reigned for 72 years. He became king when he was 4 years old, and his reign is known for its brutality, for his arrogance, and it wasn't too long afterwards that the French people decided that they had enough with monarchy and aristocracies, and they created a republic. We're not monarchists. We don't believe, we think monarchy is a relic of the past, and that applies to here, to anywhere in the world. And obviously this institution is paid for by the people in these islands in terms of propping it up. The monarchy and the Queen don't suffer in the way that the vast majority of people suffer. They're not worried right now in any of the palaces about these energy costs going up. That's not a concern, and it's never been a concern for the monarchy. So we don't think, we would like to see an end to monarchy everywhere. This is about the era of pre-democracy, and working class people all over the world have fought for the right to vote, for the right for democracy, not the divine rule of kings and queens to determine what happens to their lives. So I don't think that our council should be playing any role in promoting the monarchy or in encouraging people to see the royalty as something that they should support. We understand that there are people who will certainly celebrate the Queen's anniversary Jubilee, and they are welcome to do that. I don't think that the council should be involved in funding that. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Mayor. It's good to talk with members about this. And I suppose, firstly, I do support it. I would welcome it for those who would subscribe. But I'd also like it might be a bit premature, but certainly the way people are speaking, I think we've taken a massive step forward than previous motions, which are not necessarily divisive, but minorities within this council area would like at least consider appropriate mechanisms from council as a minimum, the same way that other minority groups would try and access things which maybe they subscribe to. So I have to say, no, I give credit where it's due, and I won't hold back in this occasion. The likes of Sinn Féin, because it's very easy for Sinn Féin to oppose this on lots and lots of grounds. In particular, given how close it is to the Bloody Sunday event this weekend. So for them not to support it, which I wouldn't expect them to do so, but to abstain and not deny someone else access to something which maybe they subscribe to, I note that. Similarly with the SDLP, in there, a bit more assertive in the way they do it because of their policies and how they see things. I welcome that. But by no means, by letting somebody else have access to this, doesn't mean that you need to subscribe or endorse it in any way. Sometimes tolerance is about acknowledging that other people do things slightly differently and maybe allowing them to have access to that. You don't have to agree with Louis XIV or anybody else and all that type of stuff. So to see on that alone, Mayor, I think we're having a good conversation and an adult one as members to do so, because I think we got this wrong probably last year and a few other similar ones, which we probably weren't as tolerant. And in a good example, maybe as well, Mr. Mayor, because it is in the lead up to Bloody Sunday, everyone supported the £50,000 towards that. And it'd be very easy, I suppose, as particularly in the unionist community, to kind of say no to everything just because it could be considered or perceived diverse. So I'm a lot more comfortable where we are now as a council having these type of talks, and long may it continue. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. I suppose it isn't a conversation on whether you like or dislike the monarchy or the royal family. It is a conversation on allowing those people and residents who do subscribe to it to have access to council resources to try and organise events, and that's the way forward. That we can disagree on our policies and we can disagree on our views, but we are welcome enough to allow people to celebrate things that we may not necessarily celebrate ourselves or commemorate. So we in the Alliance Party are more than happy to support the motion. I think it's a way in which we do move forward, and we welcome the move by some of the other parties so that it is more inclusive for that minority in our city and district. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor or Alderman Corrigan.
Just very briefly, just in comments there. We're going a wee bit on a history lesson there, but yes, Louis XIV was, he was the longest reigning with 72 years, Mayor, if you'll bear with me. And yes, there was major difficulty in his reign, but it was the case, Mayor, that Louis the 15th was referred to as the Beloved, and it was mentioned that it wasn't long after Louis XIV's reign that France did away with the monarchy. I think it went another 133 years after that, for clarification there, because it was raised there that it wasn't, it was shortly afterwards, I think, was referenced there, but 133 years is a right wee while in my opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Boyd now is the final speaker now, members.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for giving me what is going to take a very brief moment of our time. But if I can cast my mind back to the quote from my own former party leader, John Hume, when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of everybody in this city, he did say, difference is the essence of humanity. Difference is an accident of birth, and it should therefore never be the source of hatred or conflict. And therein lies a most fundamental principle of peace, respect for diversity. And I think it's important to reflect on those words as we all take a vote on this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Boyd. Okay, Alderman Devaney, summing up.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Just want to say thank you to those who have supported the proposal coming forward here. And I just want to touch base on Councillor Harkin's issue. We are just asking for officers to go away and see if there's any pots of funding there. We have not asked Council for funding. Just want to make that very, very clear. We have not asked Council for funding. We could have done, but we didn't. And good to hear that we have some support for it. And, you know, down to Councillor Donnelly's remarks, you know, we shouldn't have any truckery. Republicans shouldn't have any truckery with the royal family. And I have to say, I might remind Councillor Donnelly that Her Majesty has went out of her way and met senior Republicans since 2011 on a number of occasions. And, you know, and she met them, you know, in light of a serious tragedy that happened there and around Louis Mountbatten. But I'm not, just to remind him that she had reached out the hand of friendship to Republicans over the years. But Mayor, I want to say thanks to those who supported us and look forward to the officers' reports coming back again. And thanks to everyone who supported us.
Thank you, Fred Alderman. Okay, members, I'm going to pass it over to John now to take a vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Breslin.
For.
Alderman Devaney.
For.
Alderman Guy.
For.
Alderman Hussey.
For.
Alderman Carrigan.
For.
Alderman McClintock.
For.
Alderman McCready.
For.
Alderman Ramsey.
For.
Alderman Wark.
For.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Abstain.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Abstain.
Councillor Carr.
Abstain.
Councillor Cusick.
For.
Councillor Dobbins. Councillor Dobbins. Councillor Donnelly.
Against.
Councillor Doyle.
Against.
Councillor Duffy.
Abstain.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
For.
Councillor Fleming.
Abstain, John.
Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin.
Against.
Councillor Heaney.
Abstain, John.
Councillor Jackson.
Abstain, John.
Councillor Kelly.
Abstain.
Councillor Logue.
Abstain.
Councillor McGinley.
Abstain, John.
Councillor McGowan.
Abstain.
Councillor McGuire. Councillor McHugh.
Abstain.
Councillor McKinney. Councillor McKinney. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Mooney.
For, John.
Councillor O'Neill.
Against.
Councillor Riley.
For.
Councillor Senoy Barr.
For, John.
Thank you, members. Mayor, I've recorded 18 for, 4 against, and 12 abstentions. So the motion passes.
Thank you for that, John. Okay, members, moving on to the next motion, the motion of Councillor O'Neill. Councillor O'Neill,
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Sorry. I'll take.
have you got a second? Yeah.
Happy to second there, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor First. Go ahead there, Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, so just a declaration of interest first as a woman who plays sport and a former player for Derry City football team, and I'm a current player as well for City Derry Rugby Club. So women's participation in sport is on the rise, and over the last few years we've seen a growing profile of women's sport. However, women's sport is still hindered by inequalities, and the inequalities that women in sport face is evident really at all levels. From elite female athletes, there's a massive pay inequality and also massive discrepancies in prize money in female competitions. Only 16% of women in sport who are competing at least a national level are paid full-time athletes. And only this month did we see the Welsh women's rugby team be offered full-time professional contracts from the Welsh Rugby Union. This means the players no longer have to squeeze in rugby training, matches and recovery around full-time jobs, annual leave and their other life commitments to play for their country. Visibility is really key in progressing the development of women's sport. And there's been some progress on this, but not enough really. In our local media outlets and on our TVs, there's little coverage of women's sport unless it's a final or international achievement. So in other words, the only time women are visible in sport is when they have had a major success rather than it just being the norm. In the South there in 2020, there was a brilliant campaign called If She Can't See It, She Can't Be It. And they had 3 specific targets for this campaign. So they were 20% more media coverage, 20% more participation in sport at player, coach, referee and admin level, and 20% more attendance at women's games and events. And this is a type of targeted, funded commitment that we really need to see here in the North if we're to support the development of women's sport. There's so many benefits to participating in sport and teams for all genders across a wide age range. However, young women who play sport are twice as likely than boys to drop out at the age of 14. And for women who play sport who have children, there's also further barriers with the burden of childcare falling mostly on the mother. And I haven't touched within this motion on trans people and participation in sport, but this is another marginalised group who face serious barriers to participation. Inclusive sports, which enable access for beginners and support self-esteem and empowerment, are incredibly important. And women who participate in sport have improved body confidence, body image at a time when we're blasted by the media to have a certain body type and look a certain way. And it has massive mental health benefits. And there's increased networks that are gained through participation in sport. So that's why I hope people can support this motion to acknowledge how far Derry City football team have come, to hear directly from women in sport in the council area, from their different experiences, and to combine all those efforts to progress women in sport. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Mayor for bringing this to the floor this evening. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge ladies sport as ladies inclusive sport, particularly in my own area, in the Strabane district area, and the positive role that women play and ladies in promoting female participation in sport. Mayor, in the Strabane area, we have 8 GAA clubs who have had some great achievements in recent years at both youth and adult level. All these clubs have girl teams represented from under 8s right up to adults. This is absolutely brilliant representation of female sport, not just here in my own area of Strabane and the old council area, but right across the district. Also within my area, we have a few local soccer clubs, notably the Strabane Athletic Ladies, who won the Division 5 League last season in their first year as a club. Also, the area is proudly represented by Sion Swifts Ladies, who play in the Premiership Division and in 2017 won the Irish Cup. Female participation in sport is only enhanced by the great achievements of many local clubs, and it is important that they are all recognised for the work they do. So Sinn Féin will be supporting this motion this evening, and thank you, Councillor O'Neill, for bringing forward. It is very important that we do acknowledge women in sport and offer as many resources and support for them to develop the sport in all aspects of sporting field for ladies, women and girls. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Michaela. Alderman McClunty. Alderman McClunty.
Sorry, Mayor, I had difficulty getting the button off there. Can I just thank Councillor O'Neill for bringing this notice of motion before us. I laughed at the beginning whenever she said that she was bringing this as a woman who plays sport, because I'm responding as a woman who doesn't play sport, but at the same time absolutely agreeing with what she says and supportive of her notice of motion. And even I, as a non-sporty person, can't fail to notice how women's football is beginning to get more footage on the media, but could still be much improved, the coverage that it gets. I think the visibility of women in sport is so important, and it's so important for other women to see that other members of female that other females are taking part in sport. I think it's so good, as has been said, for mental health, for confidence, for general health altogether. So I absolutely acknowledge the all that Councillor O'Neill has said, and we will be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred Alderman McCarthy. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor O'Neill for bringing this motion forward. I think it's an absolutely amazing motion. I think you've highlighted it so clearly, that the lack of visibility, even the lack of commitment that women in sport have to deal with. Such a small percentage of women actually being employed to do it full time without the big figures and the big advertisement deals that some of their male counterparts get. It really is. It needs to change. I know, as a mother of a young girl who have just got into sporting recently, where she goes to an all girls club, and it's run by some amazing women and young girls who have fantastic skills, but there was never, you look at it and go, well, there's not really as much possibility for them to go on and do that professionally as there is for some of the male counterparts. So I think it is, I think that campaign, if she can't say it, she can't be it, is amazing. So I think anything that we can do in our city and district to highlight all the amazing sporting clubs that we have for women, girls and young girls in our district is going to be really, really helpful. So thank you, Councillor Neil. We are happy to support your motion.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very conscious that all of the speakers before me are women, but at the same time, it's no less important. I feel that on behalf of the SDLP that we express our support for our sisters in sport, because I am a son, I am a brother, I am an uncle, I have aunts and sisters, and all of whom I deeply love and respect, and some of whom actually did engage with sport when they were younger. And I think it's very heartening to see a motion like this come in front of our council at this particular period in time. And clearly, we would want to be entirely supportive of all of the proposals that are contained within the body of the motion. I think back to, whenever I first became interested in sport, and I'm a big football soccer man, and most, if not all, of the football that I saw when I was growing up was men. I didn't have any great degree of exposure to women's football, and others have mentioned it here, but that has become something that has become, I suppose, more obvious to a wider audience, and that's absolutely to be welcomed. I think it's also absolutely to be welcomed that in sports that may well have been viewed as male dominated, that we actually also have women who are commentators, women who are the pundits. Their views are equally valued. But when I think back to women in sport initially, and I'm going back in the 70s, giving me age away a bit, but some of the sports people that I actually looked up to were women. Mary Peters, I remember her visiting my school, Rosemount Boys School, and we were also proud to meet her and see her. Virginia Wade, Yvonne Goolagong, Chris Everett, woman who actually challenged all those stereotypes so far back. And I think this is a great opportunity for us going forward to encourage more girls, more women, more mothers, perhaps even more grandmothers.
Councillor Boyle, will you bring your remarks to a close, please?
That effectively was what I wanted to say, and it was really just to say, Mayor, entirely 100% supportive of the motion in front of us here, and look forward to hearing all the representatives from the women's sports clubs as contained in the body of the motion. And again, thank you to Councillor O'Neill for bringing it forward.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. Councillor Boyle, and before you sum up here, Councillor Lee, I just want to say too, very, very good motion. And as my term as mayor, I'd agree with Michaela. I've had a lot from Tyrone area, through the GA up there, through the girls, the younger girls teams too, which is great to have down here in the Guildhall. And even this week, I was just looking at young Una McGarry, Special Olympics, and 8 medals from that. And next week, members, we have an international star here and the soccer for the football for Northern Ireland. So we do Cora Chambers coming. So it's great for myself to get a lot of these free. And we only have to look out throughout the whole district, through cricket, GA, the football, the many care teams now doing there and doing so well. But very, very good motion, Councillor O'Neill. So could you sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for highlighting those 2 young athletes, and thanks to everybody for the support for the motion. I think this could make a good difference in terms of highlighting the options and the accessibility for increased participation in sport for women across the city and district. And I think it'll be important for us to sit down and hear the different experiences from the different teams, and I think that opportunity to share those experiences will be quite effective. I think back to 20 years ago, whenever Derry City had started out, and how much progress has been made, and back then playing a multitude of sports, like we really have come so far. In terms of facilities, in terms of support, in terms of kit, even all this the things that we almost take for granted now. And I think I think visibility is key. That's why I've highlighted it within the motion. And I remember as a young woman playing sport, really not seeing any other woman within the paper or on the television playing sport, and it can be quite isolating for a young woman playing sport. And I think the increased visibility is very, very important to encourage more young women to play sport and to keep at sport, because it's essential for health and well-being as we grow older. So thanks for the support, and that's me. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Neill. I'm not going to probably hear the same voices as so members of the motion from me. Anybody wishing to go against it, could you let me know in the chat box? Okay, that motion passes unanimous. Okay, members, moving on. Councillor Hargans.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I take the motion as read, please?
Yep. Could we have a seconder, please?
I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor O'Neill. I think we're all aware of the challenges that students and young people have had over the last number of years. They've made it very, very clear that they don't believe they've been treated properly by the Stormont Executive. They've had protests at the Executive demanding financial assistance during the pandemic, when they were basically not even on the radar of the Stormont Executive. They had to hold protests at Stormont. They had to take their message right in there before they actually got a hearing, and that was because they, suffered, like many people, with job loss, with a dysfunctional couple of years of education, with a struggle to pay their rents, struggle with landlords over the payment of rents when they weren't actually living in their accommodation. And I think that they are absolutely shocked at the raft of proposals that are being considered in Stormont right now. And People Before Profit were contacted by students to assist them in the campaign that they've launched to stop these cuts. And people are probably aware by now of the range of proposals that are being looked at by the Department for the Economy. And those include reducing university places here in the north, slashing education, slashing funding for the education maintenance allowance, reducing financial support, increasing tuition fees, and reducing the number of apprenticeships here that would be made available to young people. And the students have rightly said they believe that this is an attack on students, it's an attack on young people, and it's an attack on education, and it's an attack on their future. So I think we have to stand with those students and demand that all discussion of these proposals are ruled out by the Stormont Executive. I think we have to, as a council, send that message. I think we have to give our backing to whatever actions, protests the students organise to deliver that message to the executive. We're coming out of 2 years of pandemic, and we should be talking about how to build up students, how to make things better. I mean, we've had a lot of discussions here. We talked about how we passed a motion about how young people here, 16-year-olds, are paid substandard below minimum wage rates, which is the disgrace. And these are the exact students that would lose out if the educational maintenance allowance was abolished. So these are disgraceful, unacceptable proposals, and we have to send a strong message. This is not the first time that the Stormont Executive has sacrificed students. It's been, ongoing issue for many, many years. Constant attacks on student funding, constant discussions about raising tuition fees, the failure to properly deliver the number of student places here that we would like to see here at McGee. Once again, here we are. So I think, very clearly, we have to send a strong message. We stand with the students. We're going to back their campaign, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they have a future. And that involves protecting the EMA. It involves.
Mr. Hargan, you bring your remarks to a close, please.
It involves expanding the number of apprenticeships, and it involves lowering the cost of tuition so that more students can benefit from getting an education. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor Riley?
Thanks, Mayor, for bringing me in, and can I thank Councillor Harkin for tabling the motion here this evening. It'll come as no surprise, as a former Students' Union officer myself, many years ago, I might add, but nonetheless, student issues and the campaigns that the likes of NUS USA get involved in are close to my heart, and I support wholeheartedly the motion here on the screen before us. I have gone through and followed and been involved with the NUS USA campaigns during the pandemic. Specifically, given, as Councillor Harkin indicated, the issues facing students were often forgotten about, or at least not given the prominence that they should have been until students started raising their own voices and making their campaigns even louder, including bringing motions through to our council chamber and other places. To quote Ellen Fearon, who's the NUS USA president, she says about how they did meet with Gordon Lyons, the economy minister, but she pointed out how these proposals, these cuts, are an attack on her generation, and that they have the potential to destroy the hopes and opportunities of all the young people right across Northern Ireland. So, as Councillor Harkin has outlined, I do think it's important on behalf of the students and young people who want to grow up in a society that is very different than the society that I grew up in, that I think if we are going to have those young people given the place in Northern Ireland to call their home, give themselves an opportunity to look forward to employment and education, then we need to be resourcing that and putting their demands at the centre of the department of the economy. So happy to support the motion, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Heaney?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to start by saying our party will be supporting this motion. We absolutely agree that our students need to be protected from cuts and higher fees. As a father of two university students myself, I know only too well the huge financial burdens already faced by students. But it won't be lost on most people that the cause of many of these proposed cuts is caused by the loss of EU funds due to Brexit, a Brexit that was supported and campaigned for by Councillor Harkin's party, along with the DUP. The loss of funds like Erasmus, the European Social Fund, to the DUP-held Department of Economy is the same department and the same party that's proposing these cuts, not the executive. Therefore, Chair, I would like to bring in an amendment. It doesn't affect the substance of the motion, but it does help set the context. I sent it to the committee section earlier, so it's on the screen.
Okay, have you a seconder for that? Councillor Heaney?
I'll second it. Councillor McGinley.
Thank you, Councillor McGinley. Okay, members. Alderman Ramsey, do you want to talk on the amendment?
I'll speak on both, Mayor, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, first of all, we support the original motion. We have no issue whatsoever, obviously, with protecting our students. Unfortunately, the motion doesn't really show the true picture because this is one department, and Minister Conor Murphy has basically included in his draft budget that there will be a 2% cut of all departments. This is something that the DUP will 100% be opposing. Although we're obviously thankful for Westminster for the furlough and the support grants during COVID, which has obviously propped up our economy as much as possible, but we still can't afford any cuts coming down the road. And obviously the amendment's an issue because it's basically stating that the EU funds due to Brexit is an issue. Yes, it is at the minute this year. It's definitely, everything's an issue this year after the pandemic, but the UK Shared Prosperity Fund has been put in place by Westminster, which it'll be up to our MPs. Unfortunately, Sinn Féin MPs don't sit to fight for this at Westminster, but we need to make sure that we get our fair share of the EU Shared Prosperity Fund, because the ESF, ERDF and other EU programmes have been protected by this, and our local farm subsidies have increased by 6% due to our Shared Prosperity Fund. So we need to make sure, as I say, that the MPs stand up for Northern Ireland in this instance. I also have an amendment as well, because we must put into context that this isn't just about one department, and it is Minister Murphy who is imposing these cuts locally, which we are obviously opposed to, and we will be lobbying our MPs to make sure that we get our fair share, and also our MLAs to oppose these cuts. And again, we do support the motion, but we do not support the amendment. Thank you.
Okay,
I will
thank
put the amendment on
Just
now.
we'll get this amendment sorted first, so we will, and then we'll come back to that one. Okay, Alderman McCready.
Mayor, defer myself till we get the substantive motion, please. Thanks.
Okay, yep. Councillor Ferguson, do you want to speak on this amendment?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll speak on both. Mayor,
Yep.
we fully support this motion, and thank Councillor Harkin for bringing it forward. I think many of us have attended the student campaigns where we hear harrowing stories where they are crippled with student fees and not able to afford small aspects of life, having to deal with rent, high student rent costs, as well as living life and getting an education. Mayor, on the ground in our own local tech, all of our apprenticeships are oversubscribed, people crying out to get on them, but the waiting list is so long because they just don't have enough numbers. EMA allows children from some of our most deprived areas money so that they can travel to school, so that they can have lunches. EMA gives them a little bit of independence. Now, these cuts can come forward. It is an attack on our students. It's an attack on our future. We need to put money towards our students. We need to give them more financial support. We need to give them more apprenticeships, and we need to up the EMA. £30 a week is not a lot. So, Mayor, we're happy to support this motion, and I'm more than happy to support the amendment because unfortunately it does seem a lot of these budget cuts are due to the loss of funding from the EU. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Furs. Okay, members, I'm going to go what's on the screen here, the amendment. I'm going to pass the John to do a vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Breslin.
Against.
Alderman Devaney.
Against.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey. Alderman Hussey. Alderman Carrigan.
Against.
Alderman McClintock.
Against.
Alderman McCready.
For.
Alderman Ramsey.
Against.
Alderman Wark.
Against.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
For.
Councillor Carr. Councillor Carr. Councillor Cusack.
For.
Councillor Dobbins.
John.
Councillor Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Doyle. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
For, John.
Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
For.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor
For,
Fleming.
John.
Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor Heaney.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For, John.
Councillor Kelly.
For.
Councillor Logue.
John.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor McGinley.
For, John.
Councillor McGowan.
For, John.
Councillor McGuire. Councillor McGuire. Councillor McHugh.
For, John.
Councillor McKinney. Councillor Mooney.
For.
Councillor O'Neill.
For.
Councillor Riley.
For.
Councillor Stenoy Barr.
For, John.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I must
John.
be vote there. For. John Kerr.
Thank you,
John.
Councillor Carr.
John Darn here as well. Darn Guy at 4 for me as well.
4. Any other members before I count?
Here. I had to go over there and get it, Murray.
Councillor Carr, I think your mic's still on. Okay, members counting now. Mayor have recorded 27 for and 6 against, so the amendment passes.
Thank you for that, John. So amendment passes. I see that our amendment now in the chat box. We'll just get this on now up on the screen. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, just waiting on the amendment, Mayor.
Do you want to go ahead? It's on the chat box.
All right, okay, yeah,
Thanks,
no worries. No, I'm just you know, both of the amendments, you know, are factual, you know, statements, but it's just disappointing to see the Sinn Féin and DUP
Mayor, point of order. Surely the proposer of the amendment should have an opportunity to speak on it.
See what we'll do here, but just wait. It's getting long here, folks. Just wait until we get it up first. Councillor O'Neill, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up to the screen here and I'm going to bring Alderman Ramsey on to speak on that. Apologies, folks.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the reason for my amendment is just, as I said, that it's not the full picture. And this is to clarify that there is an issue here with a 2% cut announced by the Finance Minister, possible 2% cut to all departments. And it's not just this one department. So all departments will be looking at a draft budget on how they could possibly deal with the 2% cuts. And that is basically what the amendment is doing, is clarifying that this is just more about the entire financial situation as announced by the Finance Minister. Thank you.
Alderman Ramsey, thank you. If I could be a seconder.
I'll second, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman McCluthie. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, no, I was just saying, you know, this motion is about students and the cuts to students, and it's just disappointing to see Sinn Féin and the DUP picking this opportunity to have a go at each other. When, you know, rather than fighting with each other, they should be really standing together and fighting for students. You know, because, you know, both are factual statements, and these are the first cuts that we've seen by these ministers from the respective parties. But this is about how we value our students, how we treat our students, and how we fight for our students, so that we're actually invested in our students. Like despite the funding that we have at the moment, our investment and our support for students still doesn't go far enough, and the Stormont Executive needs to do a whole lot more, and needs to prioritise students. It feels like the Stormont Executive only care about handing out money to corporations and selling off whatever we have to private enterprise and private business, rather than investing in students, investing in ordinary people, and eradicating poverty and eradicating hardship. So I really do feel that, you know, I've gone off point, yeah, from this, but you know, this needs to be about students, and it needs to be about investing in students rather than trying to have a go at each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for Councillor O'Neill. Councillor McGowan.
Mayor, thank you. Listen.
Is this on the amendment, on that?
Yes. You know, basically, I mean, the department budget's 880 million, so the 2% is about 16 million. Basically, the DP fell asleep at the wheel. They've had 3 ministers in 8 months. They handed back 41 million. As a party, we're for students. We're not for cuts to any student grants or increasing student fees. So I'm against the amendment. This has got nothing to do with the 2%. 3 ministers, 8 months, 41 million handed back. Gordon Lyons has said this week that the budget is due to Brexit. So the people who voted for Brexit were told this. We as a party will make sure, or as much as we can, and resist this, and that's why we're supporting the motion, but not this amendment.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, members, there's an amendment on the floor. I'm going to pass now to John to take us through a vote. John.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Breslin.
Against.
Alderman Devaney.
For.
Alderman Guy.
For.
Alderman Hussey. Alderman Carrigan.
For, John.
Alderman McClintock.
For.
Alderman McCready. Alderman Ramsey.
For.
Alderman Wark.
For.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Against.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Abstain.
Councillor John Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Michaela Boyle. Councillor Michaela Boyle.
On against.
Against. Councillor Carr.
Against.
Councillor Cusick.
Against.
Councillor Dobbins.
Against, John.
Councillor Donnelly.
Abstain.
Councillor Doyle. Councillor Duffy.
Against.
Councillor Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Farrell.
Against.
Councillor Ferguson.
Against.
Councillor Fleming.
Against, John.
Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Harkin,
Abstain.
Councillor Heaney,
Against, John.
Councillor Jackson,
Against.
Councillor Kelly,
Against.
Councillor Logue, Councillor Logue,
Against, John.
Councillor McGinley,
Against, John.
Councillor McGowan,
Against, John.
Councillor McHugh,
Against.
Councillor Mooney,
Against.
Councillor O'Neill,
Abstain.
Councillor Riley, Councillor Sino Barr.
Against.
Thank you, members.
Through the chair to John. John,
Councillor Alderman Breslin, yes.
can I change my vote? I made a mistake at the start. No, change it to 4.
Okay, thank you. Any other members wish to come in before we do the count? Okay, thank you. I've recorded 21 against, 8 for, and 4 abstentions. So the amendment falls.
Thank you for that, Charles. Okay, members, back to the substantive motion. I am Alderman McCready. You were looking on that, Ray?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. So I support, on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, we support the original motion as it stood. The 2 amendments were statements of fact, so I didn't have an issue with them, so I would have accepted them. It's unfortunate that the time we have in council to get members together to maybe focus on the issue at hand, because students have stood up and spoke out against the issues that they face, those who legislate for it, and those who are in a position of influence in the political sphere. I am deeply disappointed that we've turned this motion into a tit for tat side of thing, whether to protect or defend ministers. I've said this before in this council. I don't really care who owns what ministry or what portfolio, but sometimes you got to do the right thing and say the right thing for the right reasons and go beyond the politics, for the right reasons. And this would have been a prime example to do that and prioritize students over your politics. Because when we talk about investment, we've talked about millions of pounds surrounding investment in the city in general, but the investment in people is what really drives an economy. It is the core of our society. So if we can't really fund or invest in our students, then how are we really going to transform the city to be the place to be? So I agree with the motion, and I hope it goes through so we can actually stand up and speak out for the students. And not to mention that 10K agreed and not being legislated to increase the Maslin cap is an issue which needs challenged, and also to find the budget to actually deliver 10,000 students in the McGee campus. That hasn't gone away, and I know PERDA will soon be upon us, or somebody may drop Stormont entirely, but that issue is still there, folks, and it's one that I support to achieve that aspiration as soon as we can. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Fred. Alderman McCready. Okay, members, I see no further speakers, so Councillor Hargan, could you sum up?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I think any student or parent that listens to this will be probably very frustrated, because what we've seen was Sinn Féin, the DUP, having a go at each other and trying to point score, when the real issue here is about the war on a generation of young people. Nowhere in the students' motions and their campaign materials anything to do with the 2 things that they've brought in to try and have a scrap over this. It's just they're not focused on what the issue is here, and the both of the motions, their amendments had aspects of truth, but they're not going to help win this fight. And the reality is, Students have not been treated properly by the Stormont executive, by the main parties that are running this executive. It's not just now that students have had a campaign. This has been going on for years. And without those campaigns over the last number of years, the Stormont executive, the finance minister, would not have lifted a finger to help them. So it's been people power, student people power, that's actually leading this campaign. And they're having to lead it against this executive. This executive is not on the side of students. This executive is on the side of billionaires, millionaires, millionaire landlords, Moy Park, Dalradian. That's who this executive serves. That's who these big parties serve. And they're terrified that people will see that this is the truth. So that's what the problem is. We haven't talked about a wealth tax. Why isn't Stormont demanding a wealth tax on Westminster? Why is it when billionaires and millionaires and corporations are making so much money, why is there no demand from Stormont for a wealth tax? It's because the Stormont executive, Sinn Féin, DUP and the rest all support slashing funding, slashing the taxes and corporations here. So they can't lead on that when they're demanding
Councillor
it.
Hargan, could you bring the remarks to a close, please?
We hope that that if this goes through, that it sends a message of solidarity, encourages them to take action, and sends a clear message to the Department for Economy that these proposals need to disappear very, very quickly. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hargan. Okay, members, I'm going to pass over to John now from the substantial motion. John?
Alderman Breslin.
For.
Alderman Devaney.
Abstain.
Alderman Guy.
For.
Alderman Hussey. Alderman Carrigan.
Abstain.
Alderman McClintock.
Abstain.
Alderman McCready.
Tell me one thing, done the topic themselves.
Sorry, members, there's a mic on in the background there.
Yeah, I mean,
Alderman McCready.
I'm for the motion, John.
Alderman Ramsey.
Abstain.
Alderman Wark.
For.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For, John.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
For, John.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
For, John.
Councillor Carr.
For, John.
Councillor Cusick.
For.
Councillor Dobbins.
For, John.
Councillor Donnelly.
For.
I don't think Councillor Doyle's with us. Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
For, John.
Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
For, John.
Councillor Fleming.
For, John.
I don't think Councillor Gallagher is here. Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor Heaney.
For, John.
Councillor Jackson.
For, John.
Councillor Kelly.
For, John.
Councillor Logue.
For.
Councillor McGinley.
For, John.
Councillor McGowan.
For, John.
Councillor McHugh.
For.
Councillor Mooney.
For.
Councillor O'Neill.
For.
Councillor Riley.
For.
Councillor Shinoy Barr.
For, John.
Thank you, members. Mayor, I've recorded 29 for, no one against, and 4 abstentions, so the motion passes.
Thank you for that, John. Okay, members, moving on to agenda 13, 14, 15, and 16. It's open for information. Councillor Farrell, item 13, appendix 11, please. Go ahead, Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, Thanks, Mayor. And I know we've had a particularly grueling meeting, so I'm going to keep this as brief as I can. Appendix 11 is the response from the Economy Minister, Gordon Lyons, where he has informed our council that he cannot find room in his schedule to come here to speak about job creation or university expansion. Am I surprised? No, not at all, because he has nothing to tell us, because he's done nothing about either issue. And it's Groundhog Day again for this council. We have another meeting request denied by another DUP economy minister, and it's reminiscent of a war of attrition. I think the economy minister thinks if he continues and they deny meeting requests, that eventually we're going to wear down and we're going to stop requesting them. But that can't be allowed to happen. Job creation and university expansion are the two most important issues across our city and district, and the minister, whether he likes it or not, is responsible for both of those. So this is very much a live issue for the SDLP, and we need to discuss this with the minister. So I propose that we respond to the minister to express our profound disappointment that he's unable to meet at present, and that we request a meeting at the earliest opportunity. Thank you, Mayor.
And Councillor Boyd seconds that. Could you just jot that on the chat box here? Councillor Farrell. Councillor Farrell, could you put that on the chat box?
I say I'm doing it now, Mayor. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, members, the proposal on the table from Councillor Farrell. Is there anybody against that? Could you let me know? Okay, members, not hearing any dissenting voices on that. So that proposal passes. Thank you. Okay, members, I'm seeing no more speakers on open for information. I want to thank you all for tonight's meeting and wish you all the best. So I'm going to bring this meeting to a close at 21:40. Thank you, members.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.